Hey everyone, my name is Kretz and today I'm answering the question about Canon cameras that was left under my video, my brief review of a very old but very beautiful Canon lens on a very modern Canon camera, on which I'm shooting right now, by the way. So let's dig into the question. Alright, if you have not seen my video, please check out the YouTube card here and let's find out the question.
Good day, friend. Could you comment on why the price difference between 77D and T7i compared to Rebel SL2? Since the three use the same sensor, the three use the penta mirror, the three has the dual pixel. Anyway, looking at the Canon site, the three has a series of similarities. The most relevant difference is the amount of autofocus points that on T7i and 77D are 45 and on SL2 it drops to 9. But does that justify the price difference, or is there anything else I did not notice? Would it make a lot of difference in the qualities of the photos, or would you just lose features opting for SL2? Thanks for the attention. If you can make a video talking about it, would be cool. Congratulations to the videos.
So that was a nice question from a guy called, or a channel called Renato Studio, and let's answer it. First of all, about the price difference. Currently I reside in Russia, so I'll tell you the prices in Russian rubles, but you can compare it to any of the currency in your country, and the point is actually figuring out the difference. So the cheapest one is the SL2 or 200D, and as of this moment on the famous Russian market, online market, it's 33,000 rubles. And the next one is 800D or T7i, and it is 41,000 rubles, which is exactly 7,000 more. And the most expensive is 77D, which is over 46,000 rubles. So the price difference is practically the same, just 6,000–7,000 rubles between all three of them. And actually, what's the difference? Because they really have the same sensor and this very similar features, but actually the autofocus points, the amount of autofocusing points really means a lot, and especially for the still photographers. Of course it makes difference for videographers, but mostly it's important for still photographers and especially for shooting wild nature or sports events, because when the subjects are moving in the frame, and the more autofocusing points you have, the more exactly and the more precise the autofocusing system and your camera will capture that subject or that object that you're shooting. So the number of autofocusing points really makes a difference. And another feature is, of course, the build quality. I own several Canon cameras, and as you probably know, or if not, I'm telling you about it right now, the Canon lines of the cameras can consist of 3 digits, 2 digits, 1 digit, and now even 4 digits. And the less digits in the name, the higher the quality is and the more expensive the line is. So the 200D is probably in the middle, right in the middle, and I really have the 600D and the 70D, which is, by the way, right here. You can see it. This is a very beautiful camera of mine. I really love 70D. So it has a 2-digit number in the name, and 200D has 3. So if you hold it in your hands, the 200D or SL2 really feels cheap. It feels really plasticky, and the dial is not so smooth and the buttons are not so soft, so there's really a difference. I cannot complain anything about this camera. I use it for about half a year for now, and it's really beautiful and it never let me down. This is a beautiful camera and I'm absolutely satisfied with it. By the way, I'm shooting on 200D or SL2 right now. But when you touch the 70D, you really feel the difference. I really dig this camera. I love it so much, but unfortunately it has no several features that modern cameras have, so I'm really thinking of changing this beauty to the 80D, which is I think the perfect version of the 70D. So, and by the way, very soon, I hope, I've already shot it, but I soon to edit and put it out very soon, I'll tell why I switched from this beauty 70D to this little camera SL2 or 200D, while this new camera is still cheaper than this camera used. I should acknowledge that even 600D although it's 7 years old right now in 2018, has actually, how my hands feel it, really higher build quality than 200D. And I'm pretty much sure that 77D, being a 2-digit series camera, really has a much higher build quality. And 800D and 200D practically must be the same, but I suppose that 800D or T7i must be just a slightly better in build quality. So that's the other point. Of course, you can figure it out only by holding the cameras in your hands. I can only compare the 200D, the 70D and my 600D. The next thing that I see in the comparison chart of these three cameras is the continuous shooting series. As the chart says, the 800D or T7i and 77D can shoot 6 frames per second, while 200D can only shoot 5. It's not a big difference, but still it's a difference, which makes an impact on the price. And one more point is actually the flash power, the onboard flash power, and the flashes of 800D and 77D can flash out to the subjects as far as 12 meters, and the 200D or this camera that I'm shooting right now can only reach about 9 to 10 meters from the subject to flash and to shoot in the dark. The next point is quite obvious. The 200D, I suppose I really know, actually. It's the smallest of the cameras, so it needs really less materials to build it, so it must be cheaper anyway. To compare them, the 77D weighs about 540 grams, the T7i 532 grams, and this tiny baby 200D weighs 456 grams, so this is almost 100 grams less. So this is a really lightweight camera. And another point is the amount of on-body controls on the camera. So the SL2 has the least amount of control. It has the dial and it has a couple of buttons. They're really useful, by the way, the ISO button, the exposure compensation button. But the T7i or 800D has really more buttons on the body of the camera, and of course the 77D, just as any other 2-digit series of Canon, has even more buttons, and it has the second screen, just like on this 70D beauty. The second screen, very useful sometimes, and a lot of buttons. You can see these buttons over here. It has the second dial on the back along with the buttons, so it makes using the camera very convenient, especially for the still photographers. It's not so useful for video because you really usually make some settings and you shoot with it, but for photography you really like to choose different settings for different pictures. So the amount of on-body controls really makes difference in price and convenience. By the way, this is the very lens on this 70D which my review was about. This is the Canon 15-85 USM lens, very beautiful lens and a perfect replacement for the kit lens. So this is just beauty. And the last but not least point, I really think, is the Canon politics or policies. They really underrate their cameras. They're overpricing and under-featuring their cameras actually. By the way, Canon recently announced their new 4-digit camera, the beginner camera, the very cheap camera, probably their cheapest camera, but it is so much under-featured, so to say, that all over YouTube you can see that you can find, and people say that it's a pure crap and that Canon should not be producing these cameras anyway. No way. So the difference in price comparing the inside of the body, the software, you know, the sensor and the amount of abilities of the cameras do not differ so greatly as the price. So I really think it deals with the Canon policies. They do not want their cheap cameras have the same features that their expensive cameras. Many photographers and videographers notice this, and while other manufacturers really have all these features in their cheap cameras, Canon still don't have some of them, and they have it in only really expensive cameras. So That's why the price differs. And concerning the picture quality, of course it will not affect the picture quality in any way, because first of all it depends on the sensor, which is absolutely the same in all these three cameras, and all the controls you can get manual, which makes you the master of the photography. And the most important thing is just your eyes and your hands and what you're shooting, so, and the light and the so on and so forth. So the picture quality you create yourself. This in-body software and all this stuff cannot make you a better photographer, so don't pay any attention on the price. You can get even a cheap DSLR camera or any other camera and be a great photographer. Everything is in your hands and eyes. So to wrap this up, I hope this answers your question, Renato, and if you have anything else to ask, feel free to do this in the comment section below. I will be very glad to answer all your questions and the questions of anybody else. And Paul Kretz was here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.